guys. Thanks for joining me here at Whispers of Truth. I wanted to do a quick video before it gets too dark about this has to do with manifesting, but this is a different way of um, seeing your manifestations, basically, or seeing what you're vibrating. It's a term called mirroring. So it's just like a mirror that you would hold up, a mirror that you look in to do your hair, or check your teeth, or whatever, a bathroom mirror, whatever, a mirror. So anyway, I'd heard the term so many times throughout my life in regards with psychology and things of that nature, manifesting and whatnot, healing and whatever. And and I keep saying whatever because, I always just brushed it off. That's an example of how I was throughout the years when I heard about mirroring. I didn't think a whole lot of it and until later. So I want to share this with you because I think it'll help a lot of people stop blaming and stop hating each other. Whoever hears this and maybe spreads it and starts, behaving in a different manner because of it. Because once you hear this, it's hard to go back once you fully grasp it and understand it. Like, I didn't grasp it, I didn't understand it, and I don't even know if it's exactly the way that others had been explaining mirroring or the mirror. So basically, let me explain it to you the way it finally it hit me and it dawned on me, okay? So I had always understood that the term mirror, when you encountered things in life, that some things were basically mirroring they were a reflection of what you were feeling inside. Okay, I brushed that off. I didn't think too much of it, right? So later on in life, I'm one of those people that I recognize patterns. I've always recognized patterns. Usually it's with numbers. I recognize patterns in numbers. And, but I also recognize patterns with people. I recognize patterns with behaviors, relationships, different things like that, energies and vibrations. So I tend to generalize different things in terms of vibrations. Um, so I remember things in like, different frequencies like trauma, pain, certain pains, you could put a name to it, but, there's always a different type of energy that goes with each name that you give something. So you feel that one type of energy, right? So anyway, so mirroring. Let's get back to mirroring. So now mirroring, I always just kind of blew it off, and when it finally hit me one day, because I have this type of personality too, not just noticing patterns, but I kept asking myself why. I have this thing about asking myself questions. Why is this happening? Who is this person? Why is they treating me like this? I don't know them. Why is it, what kind of karma or what have I done, and, to deserve whatever, and why this and why that, and when was the first time this happened? How many times did this happen throughout my life? And trying to remember, like, what the hell is this kind of pattern thing going on, right? So I always try to see the bigger picture, and I try to take a step back and look at it from a distance and look at each angle and each thing and what's obviously I'm the common denominator because I'm experiencing it. So I try to narrow it down and figure out what the hell am I doing that's causing something to happen repeatedly, right? So I notice the pattern, notice the repeat. And so over the years, I couldn't help but I've, noticed I've been bullied for different things. I've always been different. I've never been like everyone else. I never dress like everyone else. And even when I do, people look at me like I'm crazy, like I still stick out. I stand out as my personality. It's my smiling. Everybody else is miserable somewhere, and I'm just happy bouncing off the walls of my personality. And I could be dressed identical to everybody. um, anyway, so the mirroring. So one day I realized, I was getting bullied again, and it was in the workplace, and I was in a training class, and the questions that I was asking were really, really important because the instructors, when they were explaining things, they had explained them a million trillion times, just like I'm explaining things to you. It's been a gazillion times that I've said some of these, things that I'm trying to teach. And so, I might forget things, or that's why I might do another video and try to clarify and add things, because, I've told it about it so many times and talked about it that sometimes, I brush through things, or, anyway, you know what I mean, hopefully. So anyway, so with the mirroring, I was in this job and in this training class, and people's lives were at stake. It was, where we were going to be behind the wheel of a very, very large vehicle, and that vehicle had histories and the types of brakes, that were known to overheat, and when they overheated, they stopped working. And then your backup brake wasn't very good and very much better, because it relied on the same system that your main brakes relied on. And so it was kind of funky and kind of weird and kind of scary, because it was in Vegas and it gets very hot out there. So anyway, so I was concerned, and I was asking questions that could possibly help save people's lives. And people were still giving me this snickering and attitude, like, I was a teacher's pet. I was like, shut up and quit asking questions so we can get out of here sooner. And, if they asked a question, it was different. But if I asked a question, everybody was tripping. So it got to the point where the whole classroom, it started with one bully and it turned into almost the whole classroom. And so I finally got to the point where I broke down crying one night at home and figured it out. And because I kept asking myself questions that led to other questions, that led to other questions, I got to the point where I realized this whole mirroring thing is that they were actually showing me a vibration of something that I still had within me, that I was carrying for, most of my life, I guess. And I narrowed it down to, obviously it must have started in school and started at home, because I was bullied by my older sister. I was bullied by my parents. I was just bullied, all around. So I somehow got that little bully vibration, of like, whatever. And so I had to learn how to heal it and release it. And so I want to share with you really quick one of my techniques for releasing things, but you have to be very careful what you release, because I did notice, because I'm one of those people that pays attention and I notice things, but I did notice that depending on what type of energy and what it is that you release, you might actually release memories that are associated with a similar type of energy, but not the same exact thing that came up for you that you were thinking about when you decided to release that energy, if that makes sense. So basically, what I mean by that is that frequency, that same vibration, like I was saying in other videos, it's the same story. It's just a different place, different time, yada yada. So you can actually, because it's the same vibration, it's the same frequency of things that you've called up on, you might actually, because you're trying to release some kind of trauma or something, you might actually release memories from something else that's associated with that same vibrational energy that you are deciding you no longer want. So just be forewarned that if you go to tell a story one day, don't be surprised if you can't recall it and everything about it is completely gone from your memory, and you remember that something happened, and you remember there's a story that you wanted to tell, but you can't remember any of it. Like, that's happened to me. And I have a semi-photographic memory. And, so I pinpointed and realized, it's because of how many different things I had released. And so I'm going to share this with you, but please take heed, take warning. Use it at your own discretion. Only release things that you feel are absolutely necessary. But when you choose to release it, just know that you have to release things with love, because otherwise you end up making them stronger and staying. They stick to you longer. So anyway, really quick to finish the quick story, what I realized was they were actually holding, it wasn't about them. The whole thing with the people that I was working with and the way they were treating me, and then in the past and how it had happened multiple times before, it wasn't about them, it was about me. It's about me and how I feel about myself. So the same goes for you. This is about you and how you feel about yourself deep inside. So it's the whole self-love thing. It goes back to self-love. So if you don't love yourself so much that you will not tolerate abuse, that you will not tolerate abuse in any form, fashion, state, or other people's opinions of what abuse is. If you think it's abusive and you don't like the way somebody's talking or treating you or whatever, the situation, the vibration, or whatever, for whatever reason you decide, you know what, I decided I'm not going to do this. I'm going to go home and I'm going to go do whatever. Go take a bubble bath, or I'm going to go read a book, or, whatever it is. So you have to do you. That's the point I'm getting at. So it ended up being that it boiled down to me and what I had a vibration of this, the lack of lack of self-love, the lack of confidence, the lack of self-esteem, feeling like, nobody wants to hear me talk. Nobody wants to hear my opinion. Nobody wants to hear my questions. Nobody wants to learn. It was those deep-rooted core beliefs that were actually causing this. And so these people, these things that were happening, it was not just that situation, but there were other things. But these things that were happening, I realized this is what they meant when they said mirroring what's within us. And it blew my freaking mind, because I cried so hard when I got to that point where I kept asking all the questions and getting back down to it happened because of me. I had to accept ownership. This is a story I told myself years ago. And so here's this mirror being held up by people who are probably NPCs. And if you don't know what that is, that means non-player character. And if you don't know why that's funny or why that's actually relevant or probably true, what it means is if you're playing a video game, if you've ever played a video game that has other characters that nobody else is playing those characters, it's just part of the game. Those characters can only say certain things, if they even do say things. They're just standing there looking like somebody that's doing something, but they're not really a character. Somebody's not playing with a remote or something to operate that character. That character is just part of the game. So they're like a non-person. We call them non-player characters. NPC. So now, if you are starting to realize that we live in the Matrix, and some people you think, oh, they're just soulless. Well, yeah, guess what? They might be non-player characters, NPCs. So a lot of times, too, is like, somebody who could be one of the best people in the whole world that isn't a non-player character. You might bring a side of them out, like for women who are, not just women, I'm sorry, for people who seem to attract abuse or abusers, or they seem to attract certain things, certain types of friends, or whatever it is, a lot of times it's because of that mirroring thing. So when you realize there's something within you that is not happy with you, that you haven't forgiven yourself for, that you're beating yourself up for, that you think people don't want to listen to you, that you think you're not good enough for friends, or you don't have any good friends because people, they're just not whatever, they're not trustworthy, or whatever your programs are telling you, whatever you programmed yourself to believe, or you allowed somebody else to program you, that's what's running the show. Okay? So that mirror, if you look up and you see all these similar patterns and you see all these similar things, they just keep happening different ways, different things over the years, but they're still, whether it's, you can generalize it, betrayal. You got fired from a job for nothing. You got betrayed by your boss. You got betrayed by your coworkers. It's betrayal, right? That's a betrayal, and that's a low vibration. So basically what I'm saying is you can look throughout your life and see the different types of betrayal. If you want to call it betrayal. So you find the name for whatever it is that is echoing throughout your life, and you give it a name, and you figure out what the F it is, and then you decide what you're going to do with it. Are you going to release it? Are you going to say goodbye to it? Are you going to give it thanks and say, you know what? It wasn't the people, it was me. It was me, because I wasn't loving myself enough to realize that I am good enough, and I am this, and I am that. Whatever it is you need to tell yourself. You are deserving of love. You are worthy of love. So anyway, I was going to share something else with you, and oh yes, my releasing technique. Okay, so I'm going to have to do that in a separate video because this one's already gone over, but I will do that shortly, and I will get back to you soon. Thanks so much. Talk to you later. Ciao.